Hey guys, welcome back. Hey, today I'm going to show you how to add some spice to a minor blues. Now, minor blues may seem really easy because you're mostly just like, let's say we're in the key of A minor, your good old pentatonic or your pentatonic with those blues, you know, the blue notes in there, that E flat note, always work. But if you want to make it a little bit more sophisticated, maybe take some language out of the jazz guys' vocabulary, you can add a couple of things to make this a little bit cooler and be able to do a little bit more and also let people know where you're at in the changes. You know, so I've talked about this before. If I'm just playing, if I ask you where I'm at in the changes, you really wouldn't know. You couldn't tell by the way that I'm playing. Now, great players do that a lot. You know, you hear Stevie Ray or people like that that just tear up the blues, and they don't always let you know where they're at in the blues, although they always know where they're at. But the jazz guys, they have a tendency to really define it by the harmonic language that they're using. So for instance, if I took this A minor, if I played, instead of just the regular minor pentatonic, which of course works and works great, but if I added one note to it, my B note, it's called a hexatonic scale at that point. All right, now that sort of defines the sound of this A minor chord, and I can go and do the exact same thing then when I get to my D minor chord. I can play the minor pentatonic, but I can add that E note in there. Okay, now let's listen to this for a second. So you can hear right where I'm like changing those chords because I'm aiming for a note that sort of defines that next chord. All right, so we could go from the A minor hexatonic to the D minor hexatonic, and that works brilliantly. And if you want to just learn one of them, you could just learn this one, and then you can put it up in the 10th position, the exact same thing. Or if you want to learn this other position, then you also have your, you could take that same form and take it up to A minor. So then for the A minor, you have this one, and you have this one. For the D minor, you have this one, and you have this one. Okay, so those are fairly easy. The hexatonic works well. You could also do the Dorian scale, which just talking theoretically, if I'm in A minor, it's the 2 out of G major, so it'd be like A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Sometimes those notes don't work well, but you'll hear, guys, a lot of times in a minor blues. You can't do that over this D minor chord because it has an F note in it, but you can also do D Dorian, which is the same as a C scale. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So it's an F natural. So you could do like a playing just Dorians, and that works pretty well too. All right, so that's fairly easy stuff, and but starts to sound a little bit more sophisticated than just a regular pentatonic. Okay, now the mystery chord. A lot of times in blues you go A minor, D minor, A minor, back up to the D minor for 2 bars, back to the A minor for 2 bars, and then sometimes they'll go straight to this E7 to a D minor chord. But what if they don't? A lot of times they'll do, and then they'll do this. All right, so man, what do you do with this chord? This is an F9 chord, so I'm voicing it F, A, E flat, G, and C. Well, obviously this does not have the notes. That doesn't fit at all. So what do we do here? We've got an E flat note in it instead of the E note. So you get You know, that clank if you're playing the regular minor pentatonic. Now, one of the things that a lot of guys will do is they'll just do that like blue note type of thing, which totally works over this. And I think if you were a Stevie Ray Vaughan, that's probably where you'd go to, because that totally works every time. But if you wanted a little bit more to it, you know, you didn't want to just play that same riff every time you came across it, what scale would work for it? Well, there's a couple different scales that'll work for it, but one of the best ones to use is what's called the Coltrane Pentatonic. It's a 5-note scale because it's a pentatonic scale. And in this case, we're going to be thinking out of C minor. Now, this gets a little bit complicated. Don't fade because of the music theory. But in jazz, you often use a 2 to a 5 chord. Okay, so this would be like C minor, F9 in the key of B flat. And you hear this sound all the time. So, okay, so if I just took this C minor chord, I could play the C minor pentatonic over it. It doesn't quite work over this chord, but it's not terrible. But if I wanted to get this note in, I could get what they call the Coltrane Pentatonic, and that's the notes C, D, E flat, G, A, C. So I'm back to the beginning. If I was calling from this F9, the note numbers, I've got my 5th, my 13th, my flat 7, and my 9th, and my 3rd. So that's like all of the cool notes of this 9th chord. So when I play this, you can hear how good that sounds over that chord. And I'll demonstrate these all in just a minute. But now, if I'm playing, you know, hear right when I go to that chord how it sort of lights up the sound of that chord. All right, and then there's another sort of mystery chord there. Now, if you're Stevie Ray Vaughan, you're just going to go sort of over, which totally works because I'm doing my 5th. This is what I'd call a sharp 9, and then that's my root note. But there's another scale that you can use. Again, if I just take my regular pentatonic, E minor pentatonic, which you know well, so now obviously if I'm playing my E minor pentatonic, I've got a problem because this chord has a G sharp note in it, and you'll get this G sharp against G, which is a real problem note. So instead of playing G notes, I'm going to raise them all by a half step. G sharp. That's called a dominant pentatonic. So that dominant pentatonic, and there's 5 different versions of it, so if I'm here, this is the way I'm going to play this thing. That works perfectly, and all I'm doing again is just taking my regular minor pentatonic, and I'm raising the 3rd. And you can hear all over that chord that works perfectly. It's a very like Jeff Beck type of thing to do. All right, so again, if I'm playing like here, I just walked right through those changes and you can hear every one of them. All right, so let me put that in context. But when you practice this, I would just practice, what I'd probably do is take 4 bars of each of those chords, just the A minor, the D minor, the F9, and then the E7, and just work those before you do, work on the regular normal blues, which only has one bar of each of these, because it's a little, moves a little bit fast. So you'll learn the sounds of them, and then you'll really get them under your fingers, and hopefully be able to use them. So let me demonstrate that. So you hear how that works. It's really a nice sound over top of those changes. I actually played it 2 bars each. I thought it was going to be a 4 bar each thing, but you get the idea of it. If you can just put, make a little loop for yourself and play over top of each of those chords, just using those scales. Initially, just work the scales until you really get them into under your fingers and in your head. And into your ears, and then you try to incorporate it with your own lines and your own stuff, but then you sneak those lines in there, and it'll really start to drive that home of how to utilize those scales. So hopefully that helped you, and until next time, God bless.